Hello, and welcome to another episode of Ask Adam Live. As you know, and I'll share again, ASK is the acronym for Always Seek Knowledge. This podcast and others all have one theme in mind, is to get you to ask questions, to be inquisitive about life, about your life, maybe about someone else's life. I found many times learning from others helped me immensely in how I think about things, about life, and what I'm doing. Ask is to always seek knowledge. Now let's get on with today's show. From zero to launch, kickstart your new idea. This is probably a poignant time as ever to look at, what we're doing. We're getting ready for a new year as this episode is wrapping up our current year. A little bit more casual today, and I just want to share with you because I'm about, movement and exercise and getting it done. And let's be a little bit more specific about what it is that we're doing with ourselves and with our lives. So from zero to launch, you don't need more time. You need a starting line. You need to begin. You need to have a moment that you say it starts now, and you need to commit to that moment. The big new idea in the world means nothing until you give it motion. You don't need to be ready. You just need to begin. Everybody has a new idea. Few move on it. Why? Overwhelm? Perfectionism? Fear of being seen? Sometimes the fear of failure. You know, my zero to launch actually was many things, so I speak from a pretty good platform. I remember the idea of driving a tractor trailer, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to go do it. I signed up. I got in my car. I drove 6 hours to a location, spent almost a month in training, and I remember driving back. I was putting things in motion. I worked for a company, and then I found another company to work for better benefits and some home time. That seemed to be what everyone was always asking for, was home time in that industry. And I remember I was getting tired of it. And I said, what can I do? I want to be home. I want to be a part of my community. Many of you probably have already heard the story, but then I wanted to be in real estate. So what did I do? I made it a point to say I'm going to start this business by the first of the year. I'm going to be ready to unplug. I'm going to have my license. I will have talked to an office, got myself some affiliation, and I am going to move forward, which I did. Pretty much quit cold turkey and started my business the first of the year. And just in time to get a handful of sales, open up an office, and be prepared for the financial crisis of '08 in just a few short years after starting all that. Nonetheless, I decided, I wanted to do something else, and I did. And something else upon that, and something upon that. The Ask Adam Live was a concept for many years. And not that I was afraid to put a date on the calendar, it was more of an evolution. But it was doing things on the daily is what made that happen, is starting to just do things. Many of us have great ideas, we just don't move forward. And maybe it is the fear of success. Maybe it is the fear of the evolution that you're going to, possibly become something better, a better version of yourself. And that seems intimidating or possibly scary. Hey, I understand. But hopefully through this episode, you'll learn how to overcome and give structure to your vision using small moves, momentum loops, and clarity in your framework. Part one, what keeps people stuck at zero? Many times it's waiting for the perfect time, trying to see the whole staircase before taking the first step. Many times it's fear of judgment, comparison, or not being good enough. Especially if you share your ideas with family and friends. Well, not that they don't want you to succeed, but I don't know. It's kind of a human nature thing that they're always going to find the negative to something, which is probably what you're trying to avoid by always looking at the positives and seeing the success in something. Because quite frankly, if we continue to look at failure in anything we did, well, quite frankly, we probably wouldn't even get up and eat breakfast in the morning. Many times, it's too many options and just not enough action. When you look at sales, if you're going to sell something, man, there's 100 different ways to sell things. There's 100 different things to sell. It's all the same. Part of it is just finding the passion for what it is that you believe in, that you can unequivocally talk about with enthusiasm and with joy to share with someone. And then all of a sudden you become the greatest salesperson because you have all of this inertia in you. But it all begins by you starting to do that, by starting to sell. Maybe you want to have a coaching business. Part of that is starting to talk to people and understand how people think, why people do things. And once you understand that, then you begin to guide people, and then you begin to understand the patterns. Because quite frankly, we're all doing the same thing. Much of what my idea in any of this is to share with you that we're all doing the same thing, so let's start learning from each other. You think AI is powerful and exciting? It's because it's learning from itself. So if we could take an example from AI, is that we need to start learning from ourselves. We need to start sharing this knowledge that we know from each other to each other. And by exchanging that, yes, we can go from zero to anything just by having that innate knowledge. And that's what I expect this show and this particular broadcast, to share with you. Now, here are the 5 moves from zero to launch. First of all, name it. Name it. Give this idea a name. It's going to be rough at first. It's going to be rough. Ask Adam Live was just sort of a concept. In fact, Ask Adam kind of was a little bit dovetailed back into real estate, where it was ask me about real estate. And I would share with people, omitting the names and addresses, but telling the stories of events that were happening in the real estate world and sharing with people in the space online, before online became an on thing, was just to share with people, hey, here's an experience. Here's a story. Here's what you can expect. Here's a pitfall. Here's something that can happen. And telling a story of how it occurred, what we did collectively to get through it, and that there was some daylight at the end of the storm. It wasn't until several years later that the acronym all of a sudden came to play. So yeah, it's going to be tough, but start embracing the idea that you have. Give it a name. And naming it, well, that equals claiming it. Now you own it. And trademark it. But at least name it. And like I said, it took about 10 years before it evolved into something else, and here we are today. That was through refining. And it's going to evolve. It's going to happen. Does the world stop at Ask Adam Live? No. Man, it's going to keep going. I don't know what it's going to eventually become. Could be this beast. Who knows? But it started by naming it. and giving it some character and giving it some definition and starting to embrace what it was going to be about and for whom it was going to be about. Remember, knowing your why, well, know your why, then name your thing. Anchor the outcome. Number 2, who's it for? Who's your client? Who's your customer? And what will they walk away with? See, this is shifting your mindset. This is I'm excited about this, and I want your creative evolution to start going into play. I want this to create momentum for you, right? Who is it for, and what will they walk away with? I hope you're already starting to think about this. And see, what this is doing is it's adjusting your thinking and your development from what is it to what does it do. See, now you're starting to see your client and your customer. Now you're envisioning the satisfaction by what it is you're doing and what is it that it does. Number 3, remember we had a starting point? Well, next is the first 3 steps. Right? Now, I know. There's so many plans out there that, do something in 30 days, do something in 50 days, 21 days, 65 days for a habit. You don't need the 30-step plan. You need 1, 2, and 3. 3 steps. That's it. Remember, we're just trying to get started. So we have a starting point, and now we have 3 steps. For instance, I remember, and I'm probably about 5 or 6 websites into it now, but I remember buying the first domain and starting the website for the real estate hosting. And then I began to draft an outline regarding, what was this going to do? What was this adjacent to the real estate business that I was a part of? And that started to evolve in what was the, Ask Adam About Real Estate. And I will share with you that, number 4 was I didn't set a launch date. It just sort of morphed into what it became. But that's why I'm sharing with you from experience, as I mentioned before. Set a launch date. I mean, like I did with the real estate business, I pretty much said, hey, I'm going to get into this thing on January 1st of 2004. There wasn't anything in my way but that date. I just did it. So put that line in the sand, move towards that line with 3 simple steps. Part of this deadline idea is that it creates decisions to be made. You start thinking of what it is you are doing and when it has to get done, and committing to yourself to do something because you have a launch date. And look at it this way, is it's sort of that stake in the ground, the line in the sand. It's not a cage. It's not supposed to make you feel like you're compressed into doing something. It's that launch, the launching pad. Elon Musk, right? When the rocket gets delivered to the launching pad, what's the next thing that's going to happen? Is this thing's going to explode? The jet engines are going to fire. It's going to make a lot of noise and smoke and whatnot. And this large thing the size of a skyscraper is going to launch up into the sky. You know the next step. Once you do one thing, you know what the next thing is, and the next thing, and the next thing. So begin by doing the first thing. You know the second and third and fourth are just going to follow. So it's not a cage. It's each step you're doing is taking you to the next step. One thing I failed to do, and I recommend, is recruit your inner circle. Share your idea with 2 or 3 people. Create that support and accountability. I have that now. So I'm not telling you to do something I didn't do. I mean, I didn't do it before, but now I have an accountability team. We meet once a week, and we sit down for an hour, and we evaluate, and we coach. And we share with each other what we did, how we won for the week, how we learned something for the week. And one of the things I take away from this, and we always share it, it's kind of a running joke, and we find ourselves reframing our speech so many times because we're all guilty of it, but that we get to do something. Look at it as you get to launch this business. You get to learn something about this business, whatever it is you're starting. Each time you're doing something, you get to do it. I think that changed my perspective too, is it's not that I had to start a business, that I had to get a domain name, that I had to register my trademark, that I had to, no, I get to do these things. And I think once you change that perspective of you get to do things, well, now all of a sudden you get to reap what your business creates. But recruit your inner circle. Maybe it's family, maybe it's friends, but these are trusted sources that are going to tell you the truth. They're going to be honest with you, and they're going to support you. Don't recruit somebody that is pretty much your arch nemesis, that's going to constantly point out the bad things. But you want realism. You want those support and accountability partners to be real. The ones that say, hey, that's a really big idea. You understand it's going to cost X amount of bananas. So, this is something you really need to be sure about. You need some realism. You need checks and balances. I didn't always have that. And so I can firmly say that I got to make a few mistakes that I wasn't really proud of myself. I'm glad that I made those actions that caused the reaction because I learned something and I get to share it with you. But if I had at the time had those mentors and accountability partners, I don't think it tightens your learning curve is what it does, quite frankly. And we can all use a little bit of that. Part 3, progress does beat perfection. Remember, most successful launches are messy, but keeping in mind they're in motion. They're doing something. And I think as long as you're moving, although it's messy, the messy doesn't stick to you. The messy, because you're moving, kind of falls off. Like raindrops beat off of your windshield because your car is moving. As long as you're moving, yeah, the messy's going to be around, but just remember it's not going to stick to you. So even though you're currently in the messy, well, the messy's going to go away eventually. And don't focus on perfection. I think I did focus a little bit on everything being perfect, but don't wait for it to be perfect to do something. Refine as you go. Version 1, episode 1, it's really not until like version 10, maybe version 20 episode. I mean, look at these podcasts. It wasn't until roughly episode 40 that we started to evolve a little bit more into a professional studio and a little bit more editing, and things were really starting to evolve. So it's messy. It's going to be messy. Don't look for perfection. Just show up and do what it is you know you need to do when you need to do it. Again, mark on the calendar. If it's a weekly thing, do it every week. and learn to adjust where if you know you're not available for that week, well, then that means you get to do two in a week in order to be continuous on your week. See, you can't let the things of life disrupt what you're doing, right? You might have to work a little harder. If you know you're going to be on vacation for a week and take your family somewhere nice, well, maybe you're going to have to double up on your work before and after. And it's going to be messy, of course. But see, that keeps the momentum. If you just decide, hey, I'm going to take a week off, let it be, well, then you might come back and find you're going to have to start 3 paces back from where you left off. So always keep the momentum and always promise yourself something. Be honest with yourself and share. I remember the office that I was building just never really got together. I was looking to sell life insurance and other facets of insurance, health insurance. And man, it just didn't evolve to being ready. It didn't really create traction. But it taught me, well, first of all, it taught me it wasn't my thing. And that it was a different level of sales that, well, quite frankly, I wasn't interested in. I certainly had passion for the product and I understood the nuances of it, but I didn't embrace it fully. I didn't take it to heart. Or I also believe it's because I did take it to heart, maybe too much. I took it literally. That's what it was. I took it literally. And I didn't just be laid back about it. I took a lot of heart to it, and I felt like every person needs service and gets my service, and I was going to give the best of my service. But see, the thing I understood, unlike real estate, where I had some level of power providing all of my service, that's not necessarily the case. There's other factors in the insurance world and in the investment world, financial investments, that dictate kind of your level of service. So you almost have to dial it back and not care. And that's quite frankly something I couldn't do. You know, it was more about the transaction minded than the giving from the heart minded. And that's where my service comes from. And that's kind of where evolved, you know, where I'm at today is understanding a lot more of who I am. So it's not necessarily being perfect, and it's not necessarily doing something you feel is perfect, meaning for you. And you may learn from this launch and this date and setting things up to realize maybe this isn't your thing, or as I like to say, your soul's purpose. And that's okay. You can still take the lessons that you got to learn, the concept that you created, and allow it to become something else. And maybe even think outside of that box that you're currently in, of this particular thing that you're doing. Consider the next step. Where's the next level it can go to? Where could you level this up to being something different than what's currently available on or in today's market? That is creating something new. But remember that it wasn't the perfection, it was the experience of the previous, well, this didn't work episode that got you to now this episode. So remember that. And when things aren't working, strategize and understand why they're not working. It could be for the evolution of your product being something better, or the evolution that it's just not your thing. And try something different. Look to something adjacent. Or, like me, if you really want to turn the tables, where I went from driving a tractor trailer truck to selling real estate. I had the passion for the business. I loved my community. And I was really just unbelievably amazing at what I did. getting rave reviews. Before 5 stars became a thing, I was a 5-star agent. As they evolved, I became a 5-star agent, and then I pivoted to doing something different. I appreciated and loved what I was doing. I love all my clients even today. But it wasn't my calling. It wasn't what I was supposed to continue doing. So having a freedom and a mindset to always be moving and looking on the horizon to see, is your next thing within your parameters, or is your next thing the evolution of doing something slightly different? And again, always be aware of that and understand progress does beat perfection. So let's recap. Starting beats waiting. Clarity comes from motion. Remember, I didn't know that insurance wasn't my thing until I started doing it. And then I realized it wasn't my thing. But if I didn't start, I wouldn't have learned. Use 5 moves. These 5. Name, anchor, map your 3 steps, put in a date, create your circle. Continuously. And use those 5 moves, and you may have to change them. Adjust the date. Change your 3 steps. What are those 3 steps? For each thing, they're different. What's your anchor? Change the name. You may even have some small adjustments in your circle where one person just isn't a good fit and they have to be replaced. Didn't say just remove them, but replace them. You always want 3. In fact, I think it's best to have an odd number. That way, the votes can't outweigh. You're always going to have an odd number, and that's good, because then it's you being the deciding vote, you being the equalizer. So starting beats waiting. Clarity does come from motion. And remember your 5 moves. Name, anchor, map 3 steps, always put in a start date, and remember your circle. So I invite you, download the Zero to Launch Builder worksheet, choose one idea you've been sitting on, and work through the 5 moves this week. Share your idea with the hashtag #LaunchInMotion and tag @AskAdamLive. The idea chooses you. Now choose to move from 0 to launch. And remember, you've got this. I know you do. Now let us all go out in motion and make it a great day.